We're going to go straight to our exclusive debate with the party chairs. As they take their seats, here's a sampling from yesterday's House debate on health care. Seemed like Kitty's day in Congress.
This is Maddie, but Maddie believes in freedom. Maddie likes America because we have freedom here, and Maddie believes in patient choice health care. She asked to come here today to say she doesn't want the government to take over health care.
I encourage each of my colleagues to join me in voting yes, and I can assure you these guys aren't going to have to pay for it in the future.
I am pretty sure we have no kids on the set this morning, but we are joined by the two party chairs, Democrat Tim Kaine, of Virginia, Republican Michael Steele. Welcome to both of you.
Here. Great to be here, George. Thanks.
And thank you for not bringing any props. But Governor Kaine, let me begin with you, because it appears that the Republicans, and a lot of Republicans I talk to, are saying that this is going to be a Pyrrhic victory for the Democrats, that what you have here on the health care bill is $400 billion in tax hikes, $400 billion in Medicare cuts, and that's going to spark a backlash that's going to haunt Democrats at the polls next year.
George, of course, Republicans are saying that. They've been trying to block this all year. They've said that they want to beat health care reform as a way to break the president. But there's no denying that this was a historic passage last night on an issue that President Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, started 100 years ago, that now is moving forward in all the committees and now with the House vote of historic importance. And what this bill does is it provides security for the 4/5 of Americans who have health insurance so that they can't get abused by really predatory insurance company practices. It provides a path to affordable coverage for uninsured Americans for the first time in the history of this country. And then it does significant work to start to break the unsustainable growth in healthcare costs that is breaking the bank for families and businesses. We think this was a big and historic win into the week in a great way.
When you hear Governor Kaine talk about it, it sounds
good.
pretty good, but only one Republican voted for it.
No, look, you know, Teddy Roosevelt probably didn't have this in mind, and certainly this would have been one of those things he would have hunted on the big range and shot dead.
Teddy wouldn't have wanted insurance companies to be running things, I'll tell you that.
And the reality of it is we don't want the government running things either. And that's what this amounts to. This is a government takeover of our healthcare system. It is unnecessary. Republicans have not tried to block this for the purposes of saying no to healthcare reform. We've been trying to block it to bring some common sense and so we could sit down and have a discussion. Republican leaders, in a letter to the president in April of this year, requested a sit down, face to face. Let's talk about your agenda and ours and where we can find consensus. They're still waiting for that meeting. They've been blocked from putting, I think, real reform into this bill. All their amendments were rejected in committee. They didn't have the chance to really debate this last night. You're doing this at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. Americans watching.
Yeah, I mean, George, the debate stretched on. The debate stretched on for months. The Republicans had plenty of advance notice. This isn't a government takeover of health care.
It's very much a government takeover, Governor.
It is an effort by the Republicans to just basically shill for the insurance companies.
Oh, please. I mean, you know
the issue. No, just the issue in this bill that is so important to most Americans is that you're not going to get your policy pulled out from under you when you get sick. And when you change jobs, which a lot of Americans do 7 or 8 times in life, you won't get turned down for a pre-existing condition.
That's not until 2013.
But when the Republicans put their own plan, hold on. When the Republicans put their own plan on the table this week, they didn't tackle pre-existing conditions. We're starting right away to deal with the pre-existing
conditions. Where's your tort reform? Where's your portability? Where's your small business pools? Where's your program for health savings accounts? Where are the various programs that you don't need 2,000 pages to get done? You don't need to overhaul the entire system the way the Democrats have put forth last night. Mr.
Steele, aren't you concerned now? You've got the stimulus bill earlier this year, no Republican votes in the House, 3 in the Senate, 1 Republican vote in the House here, that to a lot of people who are hurting right now, that this is going to seem like the Republican Party is the party.
Look, I appreciate that perspective, and that's the image that the Democratic Party would like to have us see. But the reality of it is, and I go back to this point, that Leader Boehner and Leader McConnell both have had opportunities to put bills out there, to make amendments, all of which have been rejected. So the reality of it is, now we've got an opportunity to compare and contrast their bill to our alternative.
George,
the reality still remains. The reality still remains that at the end of the day, this thing grows the size of government. It inserts the government between the doctor and the patient. It now requires mandates on states that they can't afford, and it cuts $500 billion from a Medicare program that everyone in this country knows is on the road to bankruptcy. And the final point is, all of this is prepaid by taxpayers today for a program that they won't even begin to access for 4 years. Now, let me ask you
George,
this.
I've got to cut in now.
No, let me make my one last point here. Then
Let me ask the question, then you
let me
respond.
ask you this.
All right.
Would you buy a car today, put the money on the table today, and take delivery 4 years from now? Because that's exactly what you're doing
It
with
would
this
have to be a
healthcare
great
system.
car.
I'm
But
going
you go ahead,
to let
Governor
car,
Kaine.
and this is not a
I'm
great
going to
car.
let Michael be the used car salesman. I'm going to talk about health reform,
we
which
can
is
talk
what
about
the
what you guys did to used car salesmen.
overwhelming majority of Americans want to see this. And what the Republicans are doing, party of no on the stimulus. They were letting the economy go into a free fall, not willing to do a single thing about it, losing 800,000 jobs a month, GDP down by 6.5% at the end of the Bush administration. They stood back. They were going to let it collapse. Thank goodness the Democrats and the president put a Recovery Act in place that has GDP growing again. Party of no on health care. Only one vote.
I'm not going to
done.
sit here and
only
go to
one
this
vote.
part. I'm not going to let you
only
go.
one
No,
vote.
sorry, Governor.
90% of them voted against equal pay for women. 90% of them voted against expanding health insurance for youngsters in the S-chip reauthorization.
You can check off the talking
These
points.
guys are getting excellent
I've
at the
heard
no
from both
game.
of you on this issue. I do want to move on to the elections because Michael Steele had a bit of a Freudian slip there where he said Speaker Boehner. Maybe he was looking out of the election returns on Tuesday, forecasting it into next year.
We won 2 House seats on Tuesday, George?
2 House seats on Tuesday. The
Five
margin
of five.
margin
And
of
you
victory last night.
Yep.
But let me dig into the numbers a little bit more
You bet.
from Tuesday night. One of the things you saw in both Virginia and New Jersey is those new voters that President Obama brought to the polls last year in Virginia and New Jersey, under 30s, way down, half the share of the electorate that they were in 2008. And then on independents, look at these numbers. First of all, in Virginia, President Obama last year, Democrats won 49-48. This year, the Republicans 2-1. 66-33 among independent voters in Virginia. New Jersey, much the same story. 51-47 last year under President Obama. This year, Republican Chris Christie gets 60% of the independent vote. Democrats get only 30% of the independent vote. That is a huge flashing light for next year, isn't it?
Well, George, let me tell you something. You know, and your viewers probably do too, that for 24 years, the way the White House goes, both of these governorships go the other direction. In Virginia, it's been 32 years.
True, but that is a massive swing among independent voters.
But it's not a swing away from the president. The president is popular with independents nationally. Washington Post ABC poll a week ago, 55% approval, job approval among independent voters. That's north of where he was on Election Day last year. His job approval in New Jersey, 61%. In Virginia, 57%. So it is the case that the historic trend in these governor's races was cutting against us. And it is the case that independents supported Republican candidates. But independents nationally and independents in both of these states are strong for the president. That's why we've won.
So nothing to worry about.
Well, no, we're going to look at everything.
They
We
have a
wanted
lot
to
to
win
worry
those
about,
races.
George.
But no, let me finish. That's why we won the 2 congressional races. The only national races Tuesday on national issues were the races in Congress. We won
Your
them both.
response.
And we are 5 for 5 in congressional races this year.
We are 18 of 29 in special elections this year.
Not in Congress. You haven't won a congressional race.
All special elections. All
no-
special
none in
elections.
Congress.
But look, that's not the point. When you lose the governorship of New Jersey, you better be paying attention, and there's a reason why you lost. And it has nothing to do with the president's popularity. Independents came to Chris Christie and Bob McDonnell because they had something to say. They talked about the issues that they were confronting every single day. They were concerned about how you leverage what's happening here in Washington with what's going on in my state. You're talking about health care. There's a downward pressure on my economy, in my neighborhood, in my household. So people made this convergence, this connection between the so-called national issues and the kitchen table issues. That's number one. Number two, the Democratic Party had better pay attention to what the people out here are saying. You can no longer dismiss people by sitting on your cell phone when they're talking to you or calling them un-American or making them feel like you don't give a heck about what their concerns are. That's what the voters laid on the table this year. And you walk into 2008 thinking you're going to wrap it all around the president's popularity. Call Speaker Boehner now because it's going to happen.
What do you think independents were saying? There is an awful lot of evidence in the polls that I've seen that they were concerned about the economy and that they were concerned that the deficit is going to grow and cripple the economy even more in the
George,
future.
what I think independents were saying is what they said in exit polls, which is in governor's races, they view them as local and state races. They don't nationalize them. Even with the strong independent approval of the president, they said they cast these votes in these state races based on state issues. But again, all of the races and all of the changes in Congress this year, where they are federalized, We've won 5 congressional races. Every special election since Inauguration Day in the House has gone to a Democrat, including in some very tough Republican areas. And we picked up 2 Senate seats. Chairman Steele and others chased Arlen Specter from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And we won the recount for Al Franken, and he took over Norm Coleman's seat. Every change in the Hill has gone to the Democrats since President Obama came into office.
And that hasn't made things any better for the American people. So you can tout bringing all these Democrats to Washington, and look what you get. You get a 2,000-page bill with 2,000 reasons to vote against it.
You talk about growing again for the first time in 2 years.
Well, that's a blip on the screen. Let's see what happens as we go forward, because all this infusion of trillions of spending by this administration and this Congress comes home to roost. And you know where it roosts, George? It roosts in the back pockets of small business owners in this country, which this administration has done zip for.
But there was a warning. There was a warning sign for
What jobs are
Republicans.
small business owners creating right now? We have a 10.2.
Sure, absolutely. I'll talk about it. Let me answer.
Excuse me. No, we have a 10.2.
You just asked me a question.
I'm going to answer it for you.
Ask the question, you answer.
Yeah,
then I'm going to go to another topic.
We have a 10.2 unemployment rate right now. Where do you think that comes from?
Sure,
That
let
comes
me
from
answer
small business owners who can't hire. That comes from small
Okay, now
business.
do I get to answer the
No,
question?
Let him answer the question.
No, wait, Governor, you filibustered on the federal stuff. Let me talk
Okay,
about
I'm going
what
to
real
answer.
people are.
George, I'm a governor.
The reality of it
I am a
is-
governor, and we have got small
I was a
businesses.
lieutenant governor, so
we
okay, I
have
guess he
small,
trumps me,
we
right?
have
Let him
small
answer.
businesses all over Virginia that are doing infrastructure projects because of this stimulus bill. Water and sewage treatment plants, roads. A great
That's
example,
government
right?
contract
Wait,
work.
Well,
That's not creating jobs.
Are you kidding me?
That's not
Innovation and construction is very, very important to the economy.
What about the brother
GDP
on the
is
corner
growing
with his-
again.
with his
GDP is growing
grocery
again
store?
for the first time in 2 years. At the end of the Bush administration, fallen by 6.5% a year. Now it's going up by 3.5% a year. I know Michael wants to explain that away, but that's a good thing. Let's feel good
I
about
want to
it.
ask Michael Steele about this race up in New York, one of the special elections where Republicans did lose. And that seemed to be a race where Republicans pushed their candidate out of the Senate, abandoned the Senate to the Democrat. The Democrat, Bill Owens, is a member of Congress today. How concerned are you by this dynamic that seems to be developing not only in that race, but a lot of Senate primaries around the country where conservative candidates are pushing moderates out of the middle?
Well, my concern in New York 23 was the process. I mean, it was a failed process from the very beginning. The reality of it is this was a play to grab a state Senate seat. It wasn't about electing a Republican or a Democrat necessarily to the United States Congress. The local party, 11 county chairmen, made the decision who they wanted. They drew Senator Owens out into the race. He ran, and it opened up the Senate seat. The reality of it was not a reflection of what the people in that community wanted. You saw the primary eventually played out between the moderate and the conservative Republican in that district.
And they elected a Democrat.
And they elected a Democrat, and guess what? We'll get the seat back because this Democrat in the first 24 hours of taking office has broken 4 of his pledges. First starting by saying he wasn't going to support this monstrosity of a health care bill. The reality of it is, with a better, cleaner process there, where the people actually get to make the choice of who they want, you don't have the backroom bosses making those decisions, you'll get the kind of results that will sustain us in that seat.
George, let me talk about New York 23 because it's a gift that keeps on giving and it's going to play out forward. The year for the GOP started when the chairman said he was going to come after any Republican that voted for the stimulus. Senator Specter said, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to join the Democrats right away. The year is ending with Aditi Skozafava, a Republican elected official that the party unified behind. The party, the DNC and the RCC, gave her $800,000. Then they let right-wing radio and talk show hosts chase her out of the race with Sarah Palin, and she ended up supporting us. That's the first time I've been happy that they're good fundraisers.
No.
She put that money behind our candidate. We won for the first time since 1870 in that district, and you're seeing the same dynamic play out all over the United States.
You get the first word, you get the last word.
The reality of it is, I mean, hang your hat on that hook. I take the hat back come next November. Your problem right now, Governor, is that you lost New Jersey. You lost Virginia, your home state. You could not deliver. And the Democrats can't deliver, and that's what the
delivering in every congressional and Senate race this year.
I have the last word, Governor.
Okay.
I have the last word.
10 seconds.
You got to deliver something, and what you delivered is a 2,000-pound baby that nobody wants.